Then, yes, what has been on your mind?
Well, it's just coming out on YouTube. There's a series on uh, artist and entrepreneur meets posturing and collapsing. There's 6 videos in the series so far, and it just hit me one day. So if you've been following my work for a while, you've heard me talk about the posturing and collapsing. It's in my starter kit. And the artist and the entrepreneur, if you followed my niching work, it comes up from time to time. And the very short version is that you've got, if you can imagine, a kind of up and down 2 columns, one for collapse and one for posturing. And actually, there's a third one for composure, but collapsing is, one makes oneself very small, apologizing, bad boundaries, this sort of high school nerd archetype. And then posturing is the puffing up, the high school bully, the most politicians that we see. There's a real overconfidence that happens there. And then composure is somebody who's just very comfortable in their own skin. And so there's those three. And of course, most of the clients that I work with, they are in the collapse column. And they overgive, which leads to resentment, that they run their business in a kind of lose-win proposition. I lose, but you win. It's okay. I'll just keep giving. They don't charge enough for their services at all. They're always giving deals. So there's those three: collapse, posturing, and composure. But then if you imagine there's 2 rows with this, and one is the artist and one's the entrepreneur. So it makes a grid with 6 squares in it. And now when I say artist, I don't necessarily mean that you're a painter in that way, but I mean artist as in there's a kind of archetypal energy of I have to create things. That what moves me is I have an idea and I've got to try it. The muse has struck and I've got to I've got to do this thing. And so the impulse to move comes from what I want to do and how I want to do it. The entrepreneur is another kind of archetype, and they move from, they look out in the marketplace. It's not, they don't look inside themselves, they look outside themselves. And they say, oh, who's got an unmet need? What's a problem that needs solving? These of course are our friends who are always saying, somebody can make a fortune doing this. And we all have that to some extent. You can see that there's a problem somewhere out there in the world, and you're just like, God, this is so solvable. Like when you go to a restaurant, the teapot spills everywhere, and you're looking at it, you just think that this is such a solvable thing, and you just get a whole scheme, and I'm going to start a business model selling functional teapots to restaurants so that it doesn't just drip all over the table. That's the entrepreneurial instinct. So what I realized was almost all of my clients are in the collapsed artist quadrant. Yeah, and the thing that most of my clients want to avoid is the posturing entrepreneur.
Mhm.
And so they're kind of at the bottom in the middle there in the posturing entrepreneur. And the solution that they come up with is to move the collapsed artist. And it becomes a kind of infinity loop between, well, I got to market enough so they posture enough to get some business, but not so much that I'm an asshole. And then, but I collapse enough that people still like me. And it's a terrible loop. But there's another direction you can go, which is to this composure column at the end. And that's where the artist and the entrepreneur are no longer separated, but they get married to each other. And they have a child, and that child is your business. And of course, it takes a whole community to raise a child. And I realized that that's one of the big dynamics is it's not just a collapsed artist or a posturing entrepreneur, it's a solo collapsed artist, a solo posturing entrepreneur. So most of my clients are the solo collapsed artist. They're doing everything on their own. And if you want to grow your business, one of the first things is you have to marry the artist and the entrepreneur. Because it's not that the entrepreneur is not there for most of my clients. It's that it's a very dysfunctional relationship where the artist is always telling the entrepreneur to shut up, and they don't have a voice in the relationship, even though they've got a lot of good things, important things to say when it comes to a business, as does the artist. But it becomes a very domineering relationship on the side of the artist. So that's one shift, is this marriage. The other shift is this shift out of collapse. But of course, it seems like the only alternative is posturing, but posturing is not an alternative. It's a twin. It's just another side of the same coin, of the exact same currency, you know. And so both of those, posturing collapse, are the child, is what I realized, because it's a reactive place to be in. It's a kind of wounded place. So we got to move to this composure place where we're just comfortable in our own skin, and we marry that artist and entrepreneur, and we start to involve a bigger community. So we get help, in other words, whether that's with accounting or design, or we just stop trying to do everything on our own. So anyway, that's what I've been thinking about a lot, and it's been amazing having it come together, because I've had the collapse and posture and composure for over a decade. The artist on the entrepreneur, a little bit less, but around the same time. And that suddenly I saw how they all went together. And so that's, anyway, I got 6 videos on this, probably about 70 minutes detailing this, that are coming up on YouTube. But I don't think they're going to stay public on YouTube for a while. So I think I'm going to put it all into one video and make it available in my starter kit, which, if you're on my email list, you'll be getting all of that. Please go on my email list. But otherwise, it'll just be a part of the starter kit. So that's what I'm thinking about a lot these days.
Noticed in the Facebook post you put, first of all, actually, like, I'm really enjoying this development of the point of view and the changing of the structure of how you teach this stuff and how people get to learn it. Like this and the niching arc in particular as well are just real nice evolutions of your work for me. It's been really interesting working through. Super interesting. So in the Facebook post about your posturing collapsing videos, you made a request for feedback on people's experiences of them. Is that still open to people?
Yes,
how go for it?
I mean, just keep it coming as long as it's up there. I would love to hear. I'd love to hear what questions it brings up. I'm still trying to figure out what to call this chart. I don't know. The idea that the maturity matrix hit, but it's too lame. So if anyone has an idea of what to call it, I don't know what to call the intersection of those things. It's real wordy to say it's the collapsing and posturing meets artist and entrepreneur. There's probably a pithier way to say it, which I just, nothing's come to me. So if anyone has any ideas, please let me know. And if you have questions that all the videos bring up, I'm going to do one more video. I'll do video number 7, which will be in response to any questions that come on it. So I'd love to hear what's on everybody's mind.